Let's get into something that's a little more complicated. I know you guys will be excited about that. This is called the powers of complex numbers. So sometimes you may have a complex number that is raised to a power. So like a 3 plus 2i to the power of 6, or 3 minus 6i to the power of 3. And what you are going to have to do is use something we like to call DeMoivre's theorem. He's some French guy. I think Mr. Tetralt might be related to him at some point. But is a French guy who has designed some theorem that can help you find your final result instead of having to do a whole bunch of work. So if we look at DeMoivre's theorem, if you have a number, a complex number that is in trig form, so r cosine theta plus I sine of theta needs to be your form, then you can find the nth power by taking z to the n power is r times the cosine plus I sine of theta to the nth power, which results in r to the nth times cosine n theta plus I sine of n theta. Now this only works when your complex number is in trig form. So here, for example, 8, we need to turn 1 plus I into a trig form. So we're going to need to figure out what our r is, and we're also going to need to figure out what our z is. So since we have our complex number in standard form, we need to turn it into trig form. So this just means we have the ordered pair 1 comma 1. So we need to find out what r is. So if we say r is going to end up being the square root of 1 squared plus 1 squared. That gives us a radical 2. And then if we need to figure out what theta is, well, theta is going to be the arctangent of 1 over 1. Wow, my pen is a little bit goofy here. Theta is going to be your arctangent of 1 over 1. Well, if you think about where 1, 1 is, that is just going to be 45 degrees. That's in your first quadrant. So let's turn this into our, let's use our formula. So for, where we're trying to find the 6th power. So if n is equal to 6, then that means that z to the 6th power is equal to our r to the 6th, which is a radical 2 to the 6th power, times your cosine of our n, which is 6, times our theta. Okay, I'm just following this formula up here. Your theta is 45 degrees plus I sine of 6 times 45 degrees. Then radical 2 to the 6th. Well, radical 2 times radical 2 is just a 2. So if you have 3 of those, 2 times 2 times 2, that's going to give you an 8 on the outside. Then we're going to have the cosine of 6 times 45. Well, 2 times 45 is 90. So if we have 3 of those, 3 90s, that means we're going to have a 270 degrees plus I sine of 270 degrees. That is going to give us an 8 times, well, think about where 270 degrees is, and that's also known as a 3 pi over 2. So that means we're going straight down if you are on your circle. And if you're at your origin here, wow, that's a wonderful origin, or nice centered circle. If you go straight down, you're at this point. Your cosine at that point would be a 0 plus I sine of 270. That is a negative 1 I. So if you have 0 times 8 is 0. 8 times negative I is just negative 8 I. So that is the solution of finding the 6th power of 1 plus I and using DeMoivre's theorem.